No,
You know?
like you said, it's like I think I called my mom on the way home. Did I miss a
kept my-
homework? Did we have homework?
Yeah, there was this
I
Google
didn't-
form you
I
were
didn't
supposed to
sign
fill
up.
out when
I
you
didn't
RSVP.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Like,
I didn't
It was
RSVP.
my
your-
RSVP.
Yeah, there
Your
you go.
desirable gig conditions kind of thing.
Well, let's go ahead and start trying to, just talk generally about, for
Steinway piano at all
make
places.
some progress on the actual meeting. Then let me just check and see if.
How about,
if
please, a
That's my
piano that's in
first.
tune, please?
So can y'all talk out there a little bit?
Hello,
Yeah.
hello.
That's fine. So from now on, anything you say will be held against you in the world. Oh, it's good to see you. Come in. Nice to have you here. So we don't know where Mario is yet, but he'll come.
Yeah.
So
how are you?
this is audio out to the world, so that other members can see it and hear it. But since the camera can't really take in anything in particular, I'm just pointing it at the curtain.
Should we say
You
who's
know.
here for them?
Yeah, we could do that.
Am I in the way?
No, why don't you come in though where everybody can see you?
I texted Mario, but I haven't heard back from
Okay,
him yet.
well,
I hope
that's
it's
fine.
okay.
Here comes some more. So little by little. Hey. Good to see you, Jimbo.
Hey, man.
Welcome.
Come on in.
Come on in and grab a seat. So so Mario will come soon, I'm sure, right? I mean,
I imagine
as far as I
so.
know, he's coming. Simon isn't coming. So that's it. So who we got? We got
Dewayne Oakley,
Dewayne Oakley,
Buzz.
Buzz Brooks,
Jimbo Trout.
Jimbo Trout,
Sandy Cressman.
Sandy Cressman,
Gaea Schell.
Gaea Schell,
John Fisher.
John Fisher,
Ryan Anders.
Ryan Andres,
Amelie Anna.
Amelie Anna. Oh my gosh! So that's the biggest meeting I've ever seen yet so far.
Yeah.
Except that first one that had at Keys had probably 30 people or something,
Mm-hmm.
right? That was good.
That was a
man.
big one.
Just going.
Amelie, your hair is different.
It
Yes.
is. Yeah, it is. And also huge fan of the two of you.
Oh.
Huge fan. But I feel like I'm sitting here with royalty. It's really cool.
Aw.
Like,
Yeah. So for IMA members out there in the world, you're just going to be listening to these voices, and you can send comments via the chat on the YouTube channel, preferably. You can send it on the Facebook, but then I kind of keep looking at Facebook and away from YouTube. So just go to YouTube and we'll do it in one place.
Do all of it.
But I'll check it once in a while in case somebody doesn't get the memo. All right? You can also call me on my cell if you got it. Call the bookstore. 415-586-3733. I'll put it on. There's a little thing that says starting soon. I'll put my phone number up there so people can call and harass us. So now anything you want to say about a venue or something like that, we can always mute it if we need to talk specifics. Well, really, because this is open to the world.
Yeah, this is smart.
So we should talk in general terms. And that's probably a good idea because.
Should we give kudos to venues that have come
No
up?
way, man. Not unless it's mine.
No, I mean that have
Yeah,
upped
but
their game,
yeah,
like I was
definitely
saying
so.
before
Yeah,
we
a little list of success stories will be pretty
Yeah.
great. Who has an idea what needs to be discussed today?
As the membership committee
Yeah.
person present, I would love to know, maybe Gabe out there can send us some data, like how many more people have joined, and does anybody here present, did you get any of your colleagues to join? I got my bass player.
Somebody joined today that just commented, or yesterday I think, that just commented that there's no organization like this in the South Bay, and they're very excited that this is going on.
Okay.
So it's good that the reach of the IMA is not exclusively here in town. I mean, I think we knew that anyway, but there's a pretty good list, 160 or something. I'll check, and I'll walk away a lot to look at the
Anybody else?
text.
Or did you have conversations with people about becoming members and they said, nah, I don't really,
Yeah, I
or
pitched a
whatever?
couple
Yeah.
people. One said, "Oh man, I don't carry equipment around anymore. He's beyond that." And another guy said, "Oh, I'm a union member and I don't, I get a pension."
So can I just, I'm developing strategies and, ways to talk to people about it, which is, you know, you can say to someone who says they won't get the immediate benefit because they don't bring gear, so they can't apply for assistance, but that's not what the whole thing is about.
Right,
It's
there's
about-
also the
about-
mileage and stuff, right?
Well, it's about elevating our whole,
Everybody
else.
ability to make a living for all of us as a community.
Right.
So
There's-
that's one counter that I would say to that. And then, you know, same thing, to somebody, maybe that person with the pension, they're not a full-time musician, but again, it's, if you wanna support the existence of people who are professional live musicians, this is a really inexpensive way overall to do it.
Right.
So that's what I would say.
I sent I think it's even on the website still, but a couple meetings ago, a few months ago, Mario and Gabe put together a little one sheet,
I asked them to do
kind
that,
of
yeah.
selling the IMA. I forwarded that to some people. Tony Peebles signed up. I don't know if that was because of that or if he had already heard about it, but he signed up right after that. A couple of the guys I've worked with haven't responded yet, to my knowledge. So I don't know. I haven't had a conversation with them about it. I didn't want to be nagging, but I'll keep trying. You know.
I've been trying to convince some of my people to join on the basis of like mileage reimbursements, but since it hasn't really come through consistently yet, I have a hard time being enthusiastic with my pitch. But I feel like as soon as it's there's path for it to be happening, then I will twist the screw,
there was
because
a
I
message
think
from Gabe saying that funding is coming through again.
Mhm.
And I know, like, I had applied for some funding for rehearsal in December, and it finally came through, but it came through for the members of my band who were members.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so my bass player at the time wasn't a member, and I explained to him, you know, I'm paying for that rehearsal that we did in December, but the funds are it came from IMA and it's for members,
Yeah.
so that's a perk.
yeah, that's another one. A paid rehearsal or two, I think, can make a lot of believers out of a lot of skeptics.
What I would love to do more, and what we've done, Mario Guarneri is on the faculty for the conservatory. I don't know if you know that, for the jazz program as well. And what I've done in the past for his Jazz in the Neighborhood program is have him come and talk to our students, because there's so many young people coming through the city and then being intimidated by the housing market, by, you know, the pricing of everything, and saying, oh, I can't make a living here. And meeting Mario and understanding that entrepreneurship and joining organizations like this one is really a great way to find safety and security and community here. So I want to continue doing that, and maybe one of you would be willing to come and share their thoughts, because it's one thing if they hear it from mom and dad all the time, but maybe if, you know, somebody who is in the world making a living as a musician that they admire would come and talk to them and maybe even play with them a little bit. We're talking conservatory students, so the level is really, really, really high, and many of them are going on to being professional musicians, and many of them are moving to New York because they think it's easier there, and then they're like,
I don't know about that.
I think it's
Are
more
these-
expensive than San Francisco right now.
Are these musicians that are looking to get into orchestras, or are they looking to do jazz?
well, some of our musicians are doing both. Primarily our bass players and our horn players are trying to understand that they're gonna do best if they
Right.
understand a little bit of both worlds.
Is there a jazz program or?
Yeah,
There's a
it's-
great jazz
Yeah.
program.
Simon started that, right?
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sure did.
I'd be happy to come in and talk to people that are. I don't think I could relate to somebody that's looking to join an orchestra, because that's just not
Yeah.
my experience.
No,
but
not
No, and the
necessarily.
roots
I
in,
really mean
roots in
about
jazz and American music, those students, yeah.
yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
I'd be happy
Yeah.
to come in,
Yeah, no,
and share horror stories.
Yeah. I would love for a crop of young people join, because I feel like there's this generational gap
Yeah.
between jazz royalty in the Bay and the young cats who are coming up, who have no idea who they could have access to. if they joined a community like this one.
Mhm.
And for them, it would very much be about, oh, can I get like a couple bucks for, you know, transportation to
Yeah.
here or there, where it makes a big difference for
Mhm.
them to have those $10 or not.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also, for many years, didn't the conservatory have its own kind of quasi booking agency where
They
they
do.
would send students for gigs, a lot
do.
of gigs, and they don't pay them that well,
Oh, they do.
or they do?
Yeah, they do.
pay well
Yeah,
now?
that's the next thing. I was a student there too, so there's this disconnect between the school paying really well for those gigs, and then they go out in the world and they get these opportunities for like $30 for 4 hours
Wow,
and
that's
the dinner.
interesting. That's interesting because it used
yeah.
to be the other way around.
That's great that it changed then.
Mm.
Yeah, so when I joined 6 years ago in the first class that Simon offered, they pay really great. They pay really great for these higher notes opportunities that you mentioned. Yeah.
And they were subsidizing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It comes part through
That's cool.
part through the organization that is trying to get musicians, and also part through funding that the school is receiving. Yeah, it sets a standard that I think is not yet everywhere reflected in the reality of the Bay Area, but I know that this place is working on it.
Mm.
Yeah, and I feel like I really resonate with what you said. If there are success stories of individual people, then more people would be curious to join, and I'm happy to be that person to say how great of an experience I've had with this community.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'd be happy to talk to them.
Amazing, thank you. Yeah, we'd love that.
I have a question. I'm on the committee that with Gabe and Mario and Robert decides yay or nay on funding, and I would love to know if there's a pecking order of preference. Would everybody prefer like paid like if the money could only go to one of these things? Is it preference for a paid rehearsal? Would there be a preference for mileage to gigs, or would there be a preference in having more money per the gig? So if there's a way for the IMA to subsidize any of those three things, can you give me an idea of what the order would be? But I know everything's kind of its own context, but you know, all things is being as equal as possible. Do we have an idea of what our pecking order in that three categories is? Mileage, paid rehearsal, supplementing more money for the gig.
You asking our preference?
I'm sorry?
You asking our preference?
Yeah. If you have if there's an obvious choice there,
The personal preference.
personal preference in which order
I would like to see subsidization of jobs.
of the what?
Subsidizing the jobs, subsidizing the work. For example, I have a concert coming up. I would like to have, I've got part of the money from the organization. I would like to have the other half subsidized.
Okay.
The
It would help a
organization
lot.
that booked you, the venue
Yes,
or where?
they booked 2 bands, and got half the money, and I would like to be subsidized for the other half.
Okay.
So for you, it's more about the performance itself, and for the performance itself,
Yes.
less than the rehearsal or the transportation.
Just the performance.
Yeah.
The people that I'm using are already rehearsed and worked.
Yeah.
I feel all three are important. I couldn't.
Actually, they all 3 are important, but
Yeah, they're all
Preference.
three important. I'm just saying if there's a generalized, like, you know, and if everything's in some context, like for obviously, if you're driving at Martinez or Sonoma, then obviously mileage might be more important than paying everybody to rehearse.
Well, and I guess it's hard to look at it in, you know,
In an
choose one
absolute-
or the other because
Yeah.
In the context, right?
yeah, well, in a band,
situation.
like, you know, I had to rehearse for this run that we were doing with a sub pianist. So
of
that
course.
was really intensely needed.
Yeah.
Now, the band doesn't really rehearse unless we've got some
Yeah.
things different coming up. So,
Yeah, I know it's hard to create an absolute for that, but it would be good so that that committee could then have a conversation about that and saying, well, this seems to be as important as that, yada yada.
Well, and I'm a little confused, cause hasn't it been up until now Jazz in the Neighborhood, that was the arm that subsidized performance, actually?
I don't know.
Yeah, right,
it
that's.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, the IMA doesn't subsidize wages,
No,
right?
no,
It only funds that,
that's
you know,
JITN.
miscellany of
Yeah,
activities, Jazz in the Neighborhood. Hey, Kirk,
And what
sit
Jazz in
in-
the
sit
Neighborhood
in there
does with
somewhere
that
so
funding
that people
is
can see it. If you're back here,
they
nobody can
try
see
to
it.
get a good buy-in, a reasonable buy-in from the organization. You know, they ask them first, and in certain cases, like the case of this brewery, Del Cielo, I had asked them and talked to Mario about supplementing what they were offering before, which was $125 a person. And the club owner just said, "Oh, you need $25 more a person? Okay, I can do that."
Nice.
Wow. Just
Yeah, but
That's what I'm saying. Kudos to
JITN
that
got
venue.
$75.
Yeah.
You know,
There was a
venue.
situation
And then
where
you can apply
Mario
for the other
supplemented
75 from JITN.
income,
And you don't have to be a
whether it
member.
was through the neighborhood or not, I'm not sure, but down at Mama Kin's in San Jose.
uh-huh.
So they made sure everybody was making,
Well,
on
you
Thursday
can-
nights
each
where they were
member of the
doing
band can
jazz,
get the supplement.
they put somebody at the door and
No.
collected money for those who wished to
That's
contribute.
JITN.
And then
You don't
the,
have to be
it was either this group or the Jazz in the Neighborhood supplemented the income to make sure everybody was making
I think that's a Jazz in the Neighborhood
150, was it?
thing,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, because like looking at the IMA website, there's no application for funding for wages.
Were wages, okay.
Right.
It's either special gig assistance, which is like the rehearsal thing,
Right.
Yeah.
or the,
And JITN, you don't have to be a member.
You
There's
don't
no
have-
membership.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
they pretty much decided they couldn't
requirement.
make it a requirement of JITN assistance
Yeah,
that you be a member of the IMA.
yeah.
So that's really agnostic on that.
Okay.
So we're still hoping someday to get a way to have the IMA pay the differential for members at places that can't get up to 150, because I need that here, you know. I can ask Jazz in the Neighborhood to subsidize gigs again. I haven't done that in 2.5 years. And I don't really want to do that. I think Jazz in the Neighborhood has a lot of places to throw their money. And we're pretty good at getting up to the 150. We've dropped this last month or so because we were in crisis mode not long ago.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're like guaranteeing 100 mostly, and then based on audience, if we immediately take any revenue and get people up to 150 before we keep anything.
Mhm.
But you know, so I need that wiggle room, and I think small venues are going to need that wiggle room. And Mario has expressed that, yeah, I probably get Jazz in the Neighborhood funding, but I want to sort of hold for a minute and try to get my balance. But ideally, IMA members could apply, you know, or could just say, I'm on this gig, you know, and they're only paying 100, can I get the extra 50 from the IMA? All that, of course, depends on some fundraising for the IMA. The money's got to come from somewhere,
Yeah.
you know, so grants are going to be necessary. We're not there yet. The organization is pretty young, and we don't really have it funded. We created it out of whole cloth, you know, we created it without getting somebody to say, great, you're in business, here's all the money you need to work with. You know, we don't have that. That's why the MAF funding comes and goes, you know.
Mm.
You know, I mean, frankly, that's me and Mario putting money in. And from his organization doesn't really want him using his organization for that. And I don't feel like I should keep doing that from the Cultural Legacy Project either. So, you know, so funding's gonna.
Is there somebody, Gabe, or somebody, a committee that's looking around for the kind of grants?
I don't
that
think
would
we've
be-
really gotten going on that very well yet. I mean, you know, this is all a lot of heavy lifting, just creating this thing, so we aren't really quite there yet. That's an
Seems like
aspiration.
the city cultural something.
Yeah.
There should be money. I'm gonna find out about, like, in my neighborhood, there's, friends of mine that own a pub that are throwing a big concert at Jerry Garcia Amphitheater the week after the one that I'm doing, and they got a grant from somewhere in the city. So it's
Which joint is that?
It's the Dark Horse is
Oh,
throwing.
they're,
like
oh,
a
they're,
rock.
the
oh, they're
Dark
throwing
Horse.
a
Yeah.
Jerry Garcia?
Yeah.
It's not. It's. At
Was that the
Jerry
one where
Garcia Amphitheater.
your whole family's gonna be on?
No, that's the one that I'm doing.
Oh,
but
okay.
Which was another grant funding.
Oh, I didn't hear
Grant
about
funding
that
is
yet.
out there, but like
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
mine
There
was an
yeah.
artist grant. That
There
I
was a lot of money, but it was going to the venues and not
Mhm.
trickling down to
Right,
the
right.
musicians. And now, with the vacancy downtown at 30%, these big office buildings aren't paying the taxes. The city is like
Yeah.
in the in the red now. So
Yeah.
I don't know how.
I just want to
it's gonna
find out
work.
from these friends of mine who are throwing this other concert where that grant,
Where it's,
what
yeah.
organization it was, because it's, man, I spent 3 weeks in Brazil going to a lot of concerts, and they have these cultural centers that often they're subsidized by banks and big businesses who
Yeah.
have a tax incentive to
Mm.
to give money, and it's just like, God,
We're
I
there.
know.
why don't we
Yeah.
have?
I know in Spain they pay the street musicians,
All of
but
Europe.
they set a high bar for a street musician.
Uh-huh.
It's not like some guy just
Well,
picking
it
up
would be
a
great to
banjo.
put together a study of all these other ways that are done in other locales, so
Yeah.
we can do more than just have anecdotal
Well, it kind of
stories
starts
about.
with
Yeah.
appreciating
this
the
place
music,
and
and
that
people in
place.
this country don't, so.
Well, yeah,
Or they,
there's a lot of that.
Or they
But
get
yeah, I think the
spoiled.
public money has
Right.
gotta be the source rather than
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
philanthropy over here, that philanthropy over there, cause we're always gonna be chasing,
I mean-
chasing, playing whack-a-mole,
I
trying
mean,
to
it's
find somebody
worth
who's gonna do it.
seeing. There are, I just applied for another grant. The Zellerbach Family
Mhm.
Foundation was very clearly an artist thing, but that's a very healthy philanthropy source, and I wonder if, and I know there are some grants that are for nonprofits. So, do we have a nonprofit status yet?
No, we're fiscally sponsored,
Okay.
but we can apply
But
through
you
the
can-
fiscal
yeah.
sponsor.
Yeah,
Right.
there,
So-
federally, there are just so many grants, it's in the tens of millions that we just have to like find and apply for,
Yeah. Well, there's the next committee that needs to be formed.
Yeah.
Have
Kurt,
you
you were
guys
gonna say?
talked at all to Patrick Sims? Because I heard secondhand, not directly. He's with people in plazas. And frankly, I figured that those guys were hosed because the huge fall off in rents.
yeah.
They don't seem to be
Occupancy.
happening this year.
And what's that?
People in plazas, is
Yeah.
there any
I'm playing,
gigs?
I'm playing
Yeah.
one of them
Yeah.
like
Well,
a week
Yeah.
or something.
What I'd heard secondhand, like the keyboard player I work with a lot, that told me that he'd been talking to Patrick, and he actually said he had a whole bunch of funding
Oh,
and
Amy was
grants,
going to talk to him.
and it makes me wonder. One, maybe find out, who he's getting them
Let me
from.
see if anybody has
Yeah,
had
Amy
comments on
Molinelli,
this here.
who's percussionist, she's been at some of
Mm-hmm.
the meetings mainly online, and she's the other membership person. She talked at a prior meeting about trying to connect with him.
Yeah, because in the past I've had a good relationship with Patrick. I frankly had not really pursued playing at people's and plazas this year because it's like the money's always like okay, but it's coming from East Bay. It's like it sort of shoots the day, and also I just figured with the occupancy rate of the city downtown falling off so much, it's like where was he going to get money from? Supposedly he's actually able to line up some good sources and he's going to be looking aggressively.
There's
maybe,
a,
maybe it's even something that look at doing a cross promotion thing where we work together to get a little bit better money for the bands.
there's a comment from Casey Asbury Rios, who you guys probably know. She's been doing really the activism end of this a lot. So she says the city created a $700,000 fund to do activation. I guess that means just to get things going again, but hasn't included, they didn't ask us about what we need, so it hasn't included this organization and musicians. Gabe says, looks like we need to get a committee, and so he'll add that to his list. And so Casey's gonna talk to him about that. What else here? Yeah, basically backing up, the advocacy committee is working on this. That's Casey and Gabe. Funding through the Arts Commission. Gabe says, someone in the room will hopefully check the stream comments soon. And worst, oh, that's me.
That's you.
Okay, great. Yeah, so Casey says, join the advocacy committee. So that's the place we're gonna start looking for grants, okay? So I can give anybody Casey's email address if you don't have it. Casey says we shouldn't give up on the city paying fair. I can't read that through the little heart love thing that somebody put there. Okay, I don't know. And Casey just joined the advocacy committee. Oh, Kenya just joined the advocacy committee. Welcome, Kenya, who chimed in earlier. Let's see if there are earlier comments that I was ignoring. We'll get back to the MAF with mileage and parking and stuff. The IMA fund is specifically for offsetting expenses incurred. Lower the camera to see the speakers? No, you just gotta listen to us. That's the way it goes. We'll take a group shot at the end, all right? Everybody game with that? I listed everybody who's here except now I'll go list Kurt. Kurt Rebak has joined us, ladies and gentlemen, and has spoken, so sorry to interrupt, continue. I'm gonna go fiddle over here.
Well, so that sounds like good energy towards funding. What's going to happen?
Did anybody do any of those noise pop
Yes.
day of music gigs?
I did one the other day, and it was probably one of the worst gigs I've ever done in my life. First time I've ever felt like I've been scared. I've like, you know,
Where
it was actually the street that I live on.
Is that the
West
email
Street.
that came through the
Oh, when
point
was
where
that?
Like in the first hour,
Yeah,
two
they
different
wrote-
they
people
wrote me a
had
couple
bumped into
times
me,
and
even
asked
though there
for
wasn't any
times.
crowding.
And then I
Someone
never
reached into my tip
Never heard back.
jar.
I never heard anything.
There was somebody dancing in the traffic lane. The street wasn't closed off to traffic, so there was
So what are the structure of those gigs? I know,
Better off than.
I know of them because they also put on some concerts out at Jerry Garcia Amphitheater that I've been.
They got. I only know this a little bit, but they got a couple $1 million, maybe a little bit under 2.1, 1.9. I can't remember what the number was, but a couple $1 million grant to host music throughout the city. But they were looking mostly for duos and trios. Occasionally, I think they hired quartets, but they were also looking for something that required no amplification.
Mm-hmm. That's what, so they're
And-
not providing infrastructure. You guys just showed up.
I
with
have
your
battery
instruments.
powered gear.
Yeah, they and then it was Saturdays from 2 to 5, 3-hour gig that paid $150 or $50 an hour, I guess is what they were
Per person.
per person. Yeah. So, and I drove up and down Valencia with one of the Saturdays that they did it, and you could see
Hey, Mario.
music out, happening in different clubs, or restaurants and all that. But I don't know how many real professionals they were hiring. This is just opposed to people that filled the form out and picked up a gig. I could be. I saw some people. I know Kenya did one of the gigs. I think Amy Molinari maybe did one with a quartet, or Michelle Gerlitz. I can't remember. I saw a couple people that I know that are working a lot doing that. I don't know if you did one or not, but
I
and
just
it
know
was
about their bigger
every Saturday
concerts.
in July and maybe even in August now. I'm not sure.
Yeah, going into September apparently.
Are they?
So
Made-
is
made a
there
deal.
any there's no security provided or anything?
No, and also the place that I sat up, they had me set up in front of the store, and the store said, "Oh yeah, here's the spot," and it was filthy with garbage, smelled like urine, sticky to the,
Yeah, it was-
the touch
most
to
of
the
the-
bottom of my shoe.
Oh, boy.
On
And it's just like
Valencia-
everything possibly that could go
The
wrong.
gig from hell.
Yeah, absolutely the gig from hell. I did gigs like that all the time.
I even put the
I've never
drummer
had
ro-
anything
It's
like
so
rug down.
interesting how
Yeah.
little control.
Where was that gig?
'cause,
Yeah.
Like I'm
They had me at a
I'm producing a concert in a public park,
yeah.
and the amount of stuff that you have to go through for that permit, and trash pickup, and how many decibels are you going to be making, and is there security? I mean, it's all really for good reason. it's
Yeah.
a lot of hoops to jump through. But it surprises me that they get the permission to do this under structured thing. I mean, I'm glad you had a gig, but it shouldn't be, it shouldn't be demoralizing and
No.
scary.
Well,
like
yeah.
that.
And it makes me wonder, it's like, you know, if you put the numbers together, it doesn't come anywhere close to $2 million that they were spending on musicians, you know?
Well,
So,
yeah, they have to be paying. There's administrators, so they did have somebody who circled by a couple of times to check in and manage the whole thing. He probably had 5 or 10 different stages that he was circling around, and because I think it looks like they're doing 40 or 50 a week.
well,
So
that
they're
probably
taking all
passed 8 or
comers,
9 just
basically.
driving from Valencia, from Dubose to 24th on a Saturday.
It's called, it's
So-
Noise Pop, which
called
is a
s-
producer, and they also do bigger concerts, but they have.
Yeah, they have a
thumbs
big
up.
called
Treasure
Summer
Island
Music.
Music Festival,
Summer
but this
music,
was
okay.
something very specific. They got it, I think it was through the city, almost 2 million or around 2 million for this day of music or whatever they were calling it, and it's every Saturday. You said it was going through September 2 to 5, and it's venues that do have music and venues that don't normally have music. But I like I said, I think they were pushing the fact that they really wanted single duos or maybe trio and no amplification.
Yeah, they don't care about that. They just can't provide power. So if you have battery power,
Yeah.
you can bring it.
Sounds like another thing where the $2 million did not filter down to all the necessary overhead expenses as Sandy was describing.
Oh yeah, like
You know, like
even shade
security
for a
and,
thing like
all that stuff that you
security
Yeah,
would
shade.
But that being said, if they had stuck me a block away, it would have been great because the street was blocked
There
off
wasn't
to
even no shade
traffic,
provided.
and I wouldn't have had.
What's the name of
Yeah, it would have, and it would have felt like it was
Sounds
meant to be
noise
there.
pop.
Like,
Yeah.
Noise pop.
And the whole time I was left feeling like, oh, you know, I'm here just you know, being an active gentrifier and being paid to like make it look like the streets safe and nice for all the tourists. Because you know, any of us that are locals don't really give a shit. Some guys playing music out on the corner
Right.
doesn't make or break my day on a given day.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I value it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a good thing.
I
It's
wish
good.
it happened in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
The only thing that we have is like preachers on the corner.
Oh, yeah.
Geneva and Mission.
Oh,
Geneva Mission, that's it.
Yeah.
oh, you're out there by me.
Yeah, what street are you on again?
I'm on Chicago Way.
Oh, yeah, oh, you and I are neighbors, that's right.
That's right, yeah.
We both go to the Dark Horse and stuff.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
Dark Horse.
Yeah.
That's great. That place is
So
great.
they're putting a concert on it, what?
Yeah.
I gotta go talk to them.
September
Sean.
24th.
I don't know where you guys all are in your conversation because I got some pizza. So Casey, we'll back up through. ISCOT is the permitting agency for what? For this
Noise Pop?
noise pop, I suppose.
Hmm.
We can. Well, I can't see the whole comment here. Sorry. How do I do this? Okay. We can write to them, I don't know, from the IMA and demand they not allow so much dollars to go to something, but none to support the quality of the event for everyone. So anyway, for all performances in public, they basically want this, she wants the city through ISCOT to regulate the use of the funding, I think. Other than that, just wants to see that Casey wants to see the pressures put on the city not to permit events like that if the musicians aren't paid fairly. So that's got to be a criteria in the future, and that's been
But
consistently a
so
problem.
if it is $150
Yeah, that's
per
not the end of the
musician,
world.
that's our level.
Yeah.
Of course, it feels really different to be $150 standing on
Yeah.
a dirty street for 3 hours versus.
Yeah, there can be levels of,
You know.
I mean, that 150 is just a very arbitrary thing that is just based on Jazz in the Neighborhoods thing, and it
Right.
shouldn't necessarily be even necessary that's right, that's it for, I mean, that could be high for certain types of things. If you're playing in the Petit Paris 75 for a room that's got 6, 8 people in it for an hour and a half, can you really expect the bar to keep booking music if they're asked to pay $450 for a trio? It's just not gonna work, you know? So you have to have some flexibility in that. And on the other hand, if you're at a festival, yeah, everybody should get 500 apiece or something, whatever there can be a scale. It doesn't have to be one number, I think.
Yeah, it can average out over a person's week or month, but if you're making less than 150, and it's probably a lot more than 150, what are people's daily overhead? You know, I got cheap rent, but most people pay double or triple what I pay for rent, and utilities and everything else has got to be. Most people are looking at $100 a day just to, for overhead.
Well, at least, yeah.
And so.
Yeah,
doesn't-
150's got to be a starting point.
Yeah, yeah.
But for certain kinds of gigs, it's
But,
not going to.
Yeah,
My-
it can
The
average
venue
out
won't
over the
do
week.
it
I
if
can
it's gonna,
afford
if they're
that.
gonna be held to that without city funding to
Yeah,
subsidize
my
the
issue with the
venue.
noise pop thing seemed to be that for the large amount of money that they got, the real lack of attention that the musicians end up getting. If you're just sticking you in a corner on a street somewhere, I saw a couple of little signs that would, promote.
They did
so
put up a sign.
they would put a little doodad sign next to you, and so people would know what was going on. But there wasn't really any other concerted effort to make it anything other than, oh look, there's a street musician,
Yeah.
and that's fine if the money was,
Well, I
I
think the other thing, I'm sorry I'm late, but, the other thing is always working conditions are part of the deal. And the money is one of the lines, that we wanna get to, but, I've been, that, we'll follow up with what Casey suggested and try to contact those people and talk about it. And there is some leverage if there's other people involved, especially if there are other sound people involved that are setting up things, and is there any professionals?
Absolutely zero setup people.
no, that's what I say.
Zero-
There's
zero
no,
presence.
the money, the 150 for a 3-hour gig. Okay, that's okay, but there was no stage setup. There's no, making
Yeah.
sure that there was security or garbage. They didn't have to do any of that. They just picked places, talked to the management, said, hey, would you want a guy to stand out in front of your place for a few hours on a Saturday and play music, and we'll
yeah,
put a sign next to
yeah.
it. It doesn't cost them anything. It doesn't. There's no emphasis on anything
And they
other
got the
than,
money
hey,
from
look,
the city?
Hmm?
And they got the money to do this from the city?
from the city. Yeah,
Well, then the cities,
yeah.
I talked to the city.
How much money did they get, do we know?
It was
Good night.
it was well over $1 million. I can't remember the exact number.
And
'cause
nothing to the musicians?
It was one.
And nothing to working conditions?
No, the musicians got paid, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, the musicians are paid. It's $50 an hour for a 3-hour gig. But
No conditions.
no, just this is where you show up.
Yeah,
Preferably you do it
at
without any electricity.
Do you have any kind of an agreement, letter of agreement, anything in writing?
It was, I can forward you all.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. I showed up, they said you're gonna play in front of the store, so I went into the shop and said, hey, I'm playing in front of the shop. They're like, great, stand over here, and the place is, littered with garbage and smelled like urine. And I'm surprised that people like to keep their shops like that, to be honest. But anyways. But yeah, it's true. They could have sent around somebody from the organization and paid them, get in a van with some buckets of water and some bleach and a broom and go, and a couple garbage cans and go clean up all the spots at 11 a.m. And so when the people show up at 1 p.m., maybe it won't, be nasty again. That would be a reasonable thing. But again, I think I just had bad luck with this spot, and if I'd been a block away, it would have been pretty decent.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a gamble.
Right. I mean, these are the kinds of things that where we certainly want to expand the requirements and what's expected. And if money like that coming through the city is definitely should be traceable and should be able to get some accountability from somewhere.
Yeah,
So-
that's my issue. It's just there was a lot of money that they were getting, and it just barely trickles down to the musicians.
Right.
And that's
And
I would
unless-
love to see where that rest of
Yeah,
that money.
and unless there's a, you know, again, unless there's conditions that are written in, it won't happen.
Yeah.
It's just like anything else, you know. Recently, I've been putting together a list of suggestions for venues and presenters. And we'll send it around to everybody in the IMA. It's kind of coming out of Jazz in the Neighborhood right now because it's, goes along with our guaranteed fair wage thing, but I've put together things that we've done to help presenters get more money to pay musicians, and they include, you know, possibly taking a donation from musicians at the door that doesn't require, nobody has to pay it to get in, but if people want to help, especially if there's not a tip jar there, they can put some money into this. They can go back into musicians. It also, there's a suggestion that, and this, we can talk about this, but one of the things was that if you're feeding musicians, and that's one of the reasons that you can't pay them a guaranteed fair wage, we suggest you not feed them, and that you put the money into paying them a wage. Now, this is controversial, I understand, a lot of people don't like that idea, but it's something that my experience has been that I've been able to get some more money out of presenters by eliminating that, and I think it's personally, I'm speaking only for myself, I think it's a more professional approach to what we're doing. And the other thing, and then we can get back to this, the other thing I suggested to these places, some places spend a lot of time booking people and going through contacting musicians, and Jazz in the Neighborhood or IMA can do that for a venue without charging them to do it, and they can, and I've done that with a few people. What happens is you can say to them, well, we're happy to help you free up your time to do other things and, you know, create more income for paying musicians. So it's all with that as the backdrop of it, but it's just services that we can provide. Plus, when you get in the position of you know, a kind of between the venue and the musicians, then you have a chance to write up an agreement that includes, like in this case that I did this with, that if there was a cancellation, you'd have to give a 2 weeks notice for a cancellation. You could include working conditions that you're talking about. There'd be certain breaks every hour, blah, 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 whatever it is that you want to write into the agreement. So it gets you back more in control of your situation. And sometimes, you know, some venues may care about that, maybe not, you know. They still tell you who to call, they still tell you who to hire, that's still their deal. But they don't do all of that work, and then we could do that.
Or do they say, we want X type of music for
Yeah,
Tuesday
right.
and
Yeah.
Y type of music
Yeah,
for Thursday?
Exactly. And you know, and sometimes they're more than happy to hear your suggestions, you know, like, this space really, you know, you really probably don't, are there any drummers here? Probably don't
No.
need drums in this.
No, we don't like that.
Okay, so anyhow, but I'm just saying, and so, yeah, so it does that kind of thing. So it's kind of just getting off of that, but, sorry.
Oh, it's not really important. I was just gonna, many venues I find like, it's almost like the drinks, offering drinks is the most important.
Right.
I've always found that very strange, like,
Well, it's their
even
business,
ahead of
right?
food, like, you know, food's kind of more, it's like, can I eat something instead of having a drink? You know?
Yeah.
I think it's just
Weird.
it's a product of paying less.
Right.
It's just,
And
you
it's
know,
cheap for them.
Right.
I mean, first casual gig like that I played, somebody that was much older than I was at the time said, don't take any free food and no free drinks. And don't mess with the leader's girlfriend or something. Those are the rules.
The drummer's group.
Which I was 14, I
Not
was
the
cool with
leaders, the
that.
drummer's group.
Yeah, yeah.
You- something you-
Stay away from the drummer.
Something you said just gave me an idea. From time to time, you know, as a band leader, you get approached to play in a venue, and a lot of it is done now, just like, we agree, to this, what time, you know, how long you're gonna play, how much
Yeah.
you're gonna make,
Yeah.
when you're gonna take breaks, in an email. And it would be good to have an agreement template
That's on
that
the list.
also, you know,
Yeah,
said some of the things that you're mentioning. I would really love to have that.
yeah, let's work on it.
I mean, I have something that I've used in the
Right.
past, but I've been pretty lax about it, cause everything is just kinda like, well, no, I mean, it depends.
But-
The
yeah.
brewery, yeah, that's like an email.
But something short. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
not,
one page,
not
one
like a
page.
whole, like,
Yeah, just-
legal
Yeah.
thing,
No, no,
that-
no, just something back
like a
and forth.
union contract or something,
Yeah.
just short.
I mean, I showed up at the same gig Saturday night, and the owner said, I thought you guys were canceled tonight.
Oh, wow.
I just told Randy Vincent, that he should go home. And of course, Randy gets there early, so if I didn't call him right away, he would have been halfway back up to Santa Rosa. So, I mean, I said, no, you know. And actually, this guy, I mean, I think it was an honest mistake in this case. It wasn't really what he was trying to do. But it was clear. I had already written a letter, you know, this is canceled, but these gigs are happening. So, it's, you know, it seems like a baby step, but it's really an important step.
And actually, to that end, this gig that I did this weekend, where I said this venue came up $25 a person to the 150 thing, and they pay by Zelly. So she's like, I can't be in tonight, but I'm gonna send you Zelly as soon as, you know, at the end of the gig. So I get the Zelly, and it's $100 short over the band.
Nice.
And so I'm like, oh. I find the email where she said, yeah, I can come up to
Yeah, yeah.
$750 for
exactly.
a quintet.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, you know, thanks in advance for taking care of this, but this is what you agreed to. And it was honest mistake. She said, oh, I just went to my Zelly and I looked at what I paid you last year. And she sent me the balance. But
Yeah.
having something a little more formal.
You know, any time I think that we can insulate ourselves from the one-on-one, did you say that? Did you know, and just protect ourselves and be, it's just like, ultimately, if we get to the point where there's an IMA form, or there's something that represents what we're doing, and somebody challenges you, and you say, well, you know, I'm a member of this, and that's their standard, and that's what we're going with, so that you don't get caught in the middle of trying to have to negotiate with the person who's hiring you. I mean, that's always it's always been the benefit of being in the union for me, when I always get calls for
Contracts.
stuff, and
I have
somebody
I have
would
one.
be
You
leaning
have
on
the
me
email,
about
I'll send
something,
it to you.
you know?
I have a blank.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
It would be
Well, send
great
that-
if
send
we
that out.
could, yeah, we could send it
Send
to,
it.
send it to Mario, and then.
Yeah, I'll
And
I'll
then
collect
Mario
them
send it
all
to
and
We
try to
everybody.
come up with
can,
some.
or actually take in that information and then see if there's anything that you would
And then
add.
we'll do a composite.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
apologies, I have to go teach.
Okay.
So,
Nice seeing you.
Kenya texted me, in regards to Noise Pop, she did say that it's important to know that Noise Pop is not a non-profit, it's a for-profit business, and the government, and the city was giving them all that money.
Oh my
So,
God.
Yeah, whatever
Yeah, I
that's
think-
worth.
You
Thank
know,
you for.
I
Thanks
approached
for-
Noise
Yeah,
Pop.
hey, thank you for the book.
Okay,
Appreciate
enjoy.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Noise
Yeah.
Pop does routinely concerts in this amphitheater where my grant project is gonna be. And my first approach was, oh, hey, Noise Pop, I've got this great project. You don't have to pay the band anything. I've got a grant for it. Could we be partner? And I'll
Right.
open one of your shows for a bigger, and this was like last year.
Yeah.
Totally non-responsive, so.
You, you mentioned the union, and I always have to put my 2 cents in.
Please.
'Cause I did go to the convention in Las Vegas, the last month in June. And, there was some, on the convention floor, there was, some talk and some discussion about a conference, a freelance musicians conference. And, you know, forwarding some of the things that we're talking about. But my overall, impression was the AFM is still behind the curve, and they didn't get it, they haven't gotten it yet completely.
Okay.
They're trying, but they just don't understand what we go through.
Yeah.
And, and that's why organizations like this is
Yeah.
so important.
Well, it's really valuable, that I was just with Hannah for a little bit, that's why I was late here, so I got a kind of a briefing.
Oh,
from her.
yeah.
Hannah
Yeah.
is a,
Is the
She's the
organizer
organizer.
for the union.
For the union.
Yeah.
Specifically, that's what she does. After supporting Kale and their slate, I got a couple calls. Got one call from the president of the Philadelphia Union, actually, the lady that was running on that slate. I forget her name right now.
Kelly or
I can't remember her name. But anyhow, she was
Dusty?
very interested in what Jazz and Neighborhood was doing, and we're talking more about that.
Right.
So, I think there's some future there.
There is, and at the convention, Kale got 41% of the vote.
Yeah, interesting.
And Kale's the guy, he came here and talked to us.
Right.
And he understands
Yeah.
more than a lot of those guys. But the people that got in on the international level, they're still those New York people, and they're kind of
Yeah.
like the old school, and
Yeah.
they're doing the Broadway shows and this and that, but they don't really have that
Yeah.
ear. that,
Well, in
you
case, I don't know if all you know what a conference is in a union thing, what that situation is, I can kind of break it down a little bit. Oh, John.
know. Yeah, there's like 5 conferences and
Conferences are,
recording musicians and
right, groups of musicians
groups,
that
yeah.
play in a certain genre within, like orchestral musicians have a conference called International Conference of Symphony Musicians, ICSOM, something like that.
does it describe a group or does it describe an event?
No, it's a group.
It's
a
of
group, so-
musicians.
yeah, and they get
So-
together and have
So,
meetings.
obviously, if you're doing a certain kind of gig, like if you're doing a theater gig or a recording session or in an orchestra, there are many problems and challenges that only pertain to those people.
Mm-hmm.
And likewise, we have particular problems that, just like what you're describing today, that orchestral musicians don't usually put up with or go through. So a conference is a group within the union that has its, I can't describe exactly how they function, but they do have their own bylaws and agreements within themselves, and they set their own scales. Like I was a member of the Recording Musicians Association in LA, and that was a very strong lobbying group for recording scales. And they had a lot of clout because they were collecting a lot of work dues. And money is always at the, at the root of this thing. But because when you're doing big motion pictures, you're put a lot of money's going through, and some of those work dues end up at the union. So orchestras have the same thing. So they pay a work dues. Now, so if for instance, if Independent Musicians Alliance became a conference in the union, then there would be some percentage of 2%, 3%, whatever it is, would go work dues. And then all of a sudden, the union would be paying more attention because you're generating, I'm not saying it's all about the money, but it does support the program and the conference.
Right.
So-
The freelance conference didn't get off the ground.
Right.
There was circulation around the convention, but it
Right.
didn't get off the ground. And as far as what you were in,
Right.
I'm presenting this to you from the convention from,
Recording industry, they gave you a free one of these?
I got 5 of them, but
I mean, I'm not,
Fair enough.
I appreciate it very much.
that's
Thank
yours.
you.
I was just wanted to give you that.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Does anybody know what happened with the David Byrne show? Are you familiar with that?
No.
Well, I heard about that, but.
Oh,
Oh,
that
the one in
he-
New York?
Yeah, so he had a great show up to the pandemic with a
Thanks,
huge live band on stage.
Yeah.
And then his newest thing was recreating Studio 54 or something, having all recorded music. And
Yeah.
my friends who work in New York in the theaters were all up, you know,
Like crazy.
posting things about it, and then I didn't really hear whether
You
there was
know,
any.
It was in the newsletter, in the AFM, publication.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
And apparently in it, Burns said that he wasn't gonna have, so he wasn't gonna have other people act as gatekeeper to his music, meaning the union. And his position was that his current show was inspired by karaoke, and so he should have the right for it to be recorded. I'm a David Byrne fan, but I wasn't with him on that. So,
you didn't buy it.
well, it just, I mean, I want to see.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't
you
want to have
know,
live
in the
music be
past-
further eroded.
In the past, even when those situations came along, and I don't know if it's still true, John, but you know, there was classification for a space, and if you didn't use the musicians, you still paid musicians.
Right.
And I did a couple of those gigs, which was great. You know, you show up and
Yeah.
get your check.
You had to actually
Yeah.
just show up and
Yeah,
sit.
yeah. Show up,
Las
yeah.
Vegas, they had 50 musicians each hotel.
Classification. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
They had
if no
50 or
show gigs,
60
I'm
every
fine
night.
with.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, there's always those examples of people. Of course, feather bedding, I think, was the
Yeah.
title of that.
Yeah.
But you know, there's always examples of it. But there's reason for it, because
Right.
otherwise, if there's no deterrent and there's nothing there, then
Yeah.
you get situations where, forget it. Why
Yeah.
pay the band? Why pay a band? So, well, I think on a local level, and I'm talking with Kale next week. There is an opening on the board of directors in the union.
Yeah.
The rumor was that John was
I
John.
don't know.
John, you, John.
We need
I-
somebody from IMA to be
Yeah.
in that
I'm
situation.
still
Okay, well, we'll talk.
working on that, because I was on the board for
Yeah. But
10
now
years.
you've got this big support
Yeah,
organization,
yeah,
John.
that's true, that's true.
Anyhow, so I think, there's, you know, I think the Kale is open to it. I think there's funding, there's some money out there, that would support what we're doing if we made some kind of an affiliation. There's nothing for sure, but it's something we'd all would decide on. But I think we keep the door open because, just thinking about this situation with this noise pop and everything, like, they must have hired some union. Did they hire anybody in the union as part of this thing?
I don't
In
think
other
so.
words, if you've got a labor, and the city has the labor board, right? So, which is all the unions. So if the city's giving money to some people, then you can ask, well, did other unions get money for this gig? Was somebody there to clean up or something, or was somebody, in other words, you have some, allies, right? You have some
Yeah, a
people
labor council,
Yeah, the
San
labor
Francisco
council.
Labor
Right,
Council.
yeah. So there's a lot, there are some trade-offs. Not all good, but,
Yeah, and you can bring it up to the Labor Council.
right. And you can say that, yes.
I've got the update. David Burns' Here Lies Love reaches agreement, now hiring live musicians as of June 9th.
There you go.
Thanks for
So,
that.
And
so
that
there's,
was-
it's in Rolling Stone if you wanna read the rest.
Yeah, there was a lot of flack going on. I belong to an organization in New York called Musicians for Musicians, and they were supporting, getting people back in the pit, back in.
12 musicians.
12 musicians, so.
Good.
Not bad.
So, anybody else? I had this, I put out that idea about your ideal gig.
Did you look at the responses?
I saw a couple of responses. Were you one of
I
them?
was one of them.
Yeah, talk about it.
Oh, and I didn't know how high to, I didn't
It's
put
fantasy,
high.
you know,
Oh,
but not a total fantasy.
Steinway piano.
okay. I mean, I think
Good.
I think I put $200 a gig, but
Yeah.
I'd really maybe $250 and not more than 2 sets and
That's a good one.
parking
Yep.
and
Yeah.
I probably said food and drink, but not
It's okay.
instead of
We'll
not
put it in.
instead of.
Yeah. I thought of it, I just put it out there because I think sometimes it's been so, you know, we don't get a chance to be kind of aspirational about what we want to do. We're just kind of, oh God, I hope I could fill up this weekend or did something.
One thing that's really important is, you know, if it's not you know, specifically a listening audience, at least an audience that's not screaming right by you.
Yeah.
On their phone, you know, playing a video.
Yeah.
Let me
That
add
kind of
in,
thing.
How do you wanna have that
Next.
enforced?
infrastructure like, I mean,
Good question.
PA,
Good question.
PA provided,
Yeah.
sound provided.
Yeah. Good question.
Yeah, very.
I think if that's out front,
I think if it's out front, it's fine. It's just, it's part of why I raised it was I remember playing as a sideman with, backing a singer who, it was a bar, and I told her, you know, this is a bar gig, and there was
Yeah.
somebody nearby talking. She's like, she asked a friend of mine in the audience to shush that person. It's like,
right.
that's not realistic, and
Yeah.
don't put my friend in that
Yeah.
mind, because,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I don't really know what the answer is for that one.
Yeah.
but-
Yeah, that's a tough
and,
one.
you know, it was a dive bar. And if I'm playing a dive bar,
Yeah.
Right.
You gotta know what you're playing.
you know,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah, check it out, yes.
We can encourage the venues to post something about it. I'm gonna see if I have photos, but there was this club I went to in Sao Paulo called Jazz B, and they had some cool little handwritten like slogans, you know, if you're enjoying the music, the solos, you know, applaud, you know, or and keep your conversation to a minimum kind of thing. I thought, and in a really charming way. I can't remember.
There's
think
a
I
couple
took a
of
picture
venues
of
in
it.
the city that do it really well too.
Yeah.
Like as an announcement before any group plays, encouraging people to put their conversations away and share their attention with the band.
I
And
think
it-
Eric's done that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
you are like
Yeah.
you're
A
always
master.
Right, a venue that
Yeah.
respects the musicians.
Right.
And there was that night in Keys when some group came in from a company or
Simon's all
something.
over it,
It was
yeah.
like 25 of them, and they sat over against the wall, and they were just like that. And so then Simon got up. I think he actually stopped the band
Yeah.
after
Wow.
3 numbers, and he got up and he said,
Wow.
"This is, you know, a listening room.
Mm.
If y'all want to do that, we have a nice bar and lounge
Right.
next door
Yeah.
that you can go to." You know, so he's,
When
he
I was
shut up.
playing the
and they
piano
shut up
piece,
after
though.
he told them.
Well, on Friday night though, I was right up because the piano's right by the window, and just on that, at least on that particular night, I guess maybe it happens on Fridays in particular, but there was like a DJ right outside
Right
on the
outside,
street or
yeah.
something, and I thought I couldn't concentrate. You know,
Yeah.
it's hard.
That's tough.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Jeez.
It's a lot about education, I think, like educating people
right.
what
Yeah.
you do.
I
and
think it's something you
what their
gotta
experience
get
is.
Right.
together with the presenter and the venue and figure it out, but I think it's worth.
Yeah, I think what the IMA could do is like have a seal of approval for the places that are really doing a good job of it. I mean, not, you know,
Right.
but make a big deal publicly, start to have a, a little announcement from time to time that the public somehow sees that says, you know, your local professional musicians who are in solidarity want to point out these situations that are laudable, you know,
Yeah.
and talk about wages and talk about working conditions and talk about audience buy-in and all the rest of it, you know, so that the IMA is not just a scold, but but actually kind of encourages people. You want to spend your entertainment dollars wisely in this town? Think about, you know, what's going on over here and what's going on over there. And we aren't going to mention the people that aren't doing this, but I mean, a lot of times I tell people, well, be sure to, you know, if you go to someplace and you hear people playing that you like, and you know, ask them if they're getting paid a fair wage, and ask the management if they paid a fair wage. Get the audience to want to get the public to buy into what the IMA is trying to do.
Yeah.
That's what I'm kind of saying.
So the musicians union tried to do this years ago. They have, it's called Venuology,
Okay.
and
Oh, yeah.
it says musicians on venuology.com anonymously review venues they've played, and any musician can review a venue that he or she has played. And you go on this website and you put, you know, anonymously, hey, I played at this place, it wasn't so great, they gave me a hamburger and $80 or whatever, you know, whatever you have to say, or the sound system was crappy or something like that. It was, the software was, they didn't keep up on the software of the program, so they didn't get a lot of turnover. But they're trying to revitalize it.
Well, it's good to know, because I remember posting a couple times, and it was kind of a ghost town back then.
Yeah, it was like a ghost
On
town,
the
and
Musicians
the,
Union one? Or?
yeah,
Yeah.
the,
'Cause
the
we have
software
one with
wasn't
IMA.
kept up.
IMA has one.
But
Yeah.
but the
Not referring
IMA
to
is
this one.
going a step
Forum, is that
further.
what it's-
Yeah.
Yeah, and the IMA
Right.
one isn't really very active as far as I can tell. You know, people aren't really buying into that
Yeah.
that forum idea yet. So maybe working on that. You know,
Right.
everybody like deliberately trying to post to that frequently
Oh,
might
yeah,
help
yeah.
goose it along.
Well, I got a
And
little-
also not being a Yelp where it's always dragging people in the mud.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
No.
But it's, you know, I mean,
Yeah, I don't
just
like
don't
this guy.
just don't
you
need
know,
that. Well, you
yeah,
know, the guy like look at
Okay.
me cross-eyed.
Yeah.
I mean, every so often there's somebody who will say, "Excuse me, I need to get through here." Don't speak to me that way, somebody said the other day, you know, and I'm like,
Whoa.
oh, I'm sorry, it's just crowded, I need to get to the back of the
I
room
own
to
the
like
place.
fix that screeching feedback or something, whatever, you know, and you know, the person
Yeah,
said,
geez.
I've done you know, I put on events. I'm like, yeah, I put on like 300 events a year. Yeah, I do my best. Get out of the way. But anyway, so
Maybe
yeah, so,
maybe the IMA could take money to scrub the
Yeah.
bad reputations of bad venues. You know,
that would be
$500
how we
off
could
and-
finance this, right? Better than breaking their windows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I do like your idea, Eric, though, that putting out sort of the, I think it's important that we not present ourselves as just like, we all got complaints, but if all we present are complaints, we come off as whiners.
Just,
and we're
yeah.
gonna
Right,
ignore it.
no.
Yeah.
I should post about kudos to the club that paid more money
Yeah.
this year.
Well, name that club
You know, I
for
actually
public consumption. Who paid?
Oh, it's Del Cielo Brewing
Del Cielo Brewing. So you
In-
know, people
in-
are really stepping up.
in Martinez,
Yeah.
and it was really hot and really long way to go, but it felt very like a very worthwhile gig this time.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and the distance and the heat were not within their control.
No,
Right.
no, no, no.
I actually started reviewing places that I perform at on Yelp and Google, because as much as these places can be toxic and questionable, many of the places do rely on being found
Mhm.
through these websites and services when, you know, young people are trying to, what is the hippest club in town, or where should I go and have my whatever vegan tonight. And I, as a musician, I still consider myself a customer too
Mhm.
of that moment in a way, and so I feel like I'm entitled to share my review, and if it's a particularly good one, I definitely do take the time to share that under my name, because I feel that that's one way of me promoting that this was a good experience and helping them have that visibility. Could even be with a photo of your own band on stage.
Mhm, mhm.
right. No, I think
I
that's
don't know
great.
if that's okay, but
Yeah.
that's what I do.
Well, Jathan ever tries to put out a list of all the guaranteed fair wage
Mhm.
jobs that we cover, that we
Mhm.
do, and promote them in the blast every week.
Yeah.
We need to up the game in that area, but and we did a survey of our members who listen, and I would say, you know, we probably had a good 80-90% of people who supported it. But then there was, you know, the people like, you know, you guys are always on your soapbox trying to get people paid. Can't we just go out and listen? You know, there was somebody, which I resisted calling them, but I didn't. Not yet. But anyhow,
I think
so-
it's just difficult to get out of our echo chamber. Like
Yeah.
we all
Right.
know, and the people we love, they all know.
Yeah.
But how do we get out of that? So I feel that I think you said it, or Brian said it, or I'm sorry, said, how do we get the public to understand? And so I think using avenues that already exist, that a majority of people use is, I don't know how to do that.
One thing I've done that I think might be in parallel to that is on things like Facebook or whatever, on my email blasts on my websites, they'll say, okay, like I'm playing at such and such a place. I said, I really like this place. I've gone on my own time and spent my own money there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, because I figured that's like about the best endorsement I can give is,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
you know, I choose to go there. And of course, the other thing with that is it's important to go out and support other acts.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Right, I know, I mean, Simon's been trying to do it, Eric does it here, you know, if you're an IMA member and you show up, and there's a cover, you usually get a deal, and we can go out and support each other as much as we can.
Mhm.
That's really helpful. I think the more that we've talked about the other day, Andy Gilbert's writing an article about IMA and other organizations that are organizing positions. So, have you heard anything when that's happening for the classical course?
No, he said his deadline was last Friday, so it
Okay,
should come
so it
out
should
pretty
be
quick.
coming
I
out
don't think
soon.
they paused.
So
for
he
long.
certainly heard an earful from me and Eric, and I don't know who else he talked to, I forget who else, but you know, I told Andy when, I said, man, I wish we could put you on, you know, retainer, like, you write something about what we're doing every month, you know. I mean, that,
There'd probably be a conflict of interest, but
well, yeah, but I mean,
Well,
He's
I
a
mean, a lot of
journalist.
journalists also do contract writing jobs.
yeah,
That's
he
true.
does
Yeah.
everything
He does,
too.
he does.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I mean, if it would work, I'd be all for it.
yeah.
yeah.
Can we get
But
somebody?
also, just so you know, we're also in the process of approaching KCSM.
I was just gonna ask.
And trying to dialogue with them, I'm trying to put this nicely, about their fees for publicizing gigs and concerts.
Yeah, what the?
Yeah, what's up with that?
Or is it their jazz date book?
No, not the
No.
date book, the actual announcements on the
Oh,
air.
okay.
Oh,
It seems to
airtime.
be all the
Airtime.
public radio stations now.
You have to
like
pay to
shifted
get
a
your
model.
gig?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, you have to pay $100 for a 30-second spot. So,
1 spot.
Yeah, per spot.
for each spot.
So got,
So when
you
they're
know,
just
when
talking
they have
about,
broadcasting, you know.
Jazz Keys and places
If
like
they're
that. they have
talking
to
about it
pay.
and mentioning places, you know that somebody paid
Yeah.
some money.
Yeah. Wow.
Now, the disc jockeys are totally with us, of course, but they get in trouble, actually.
Right.
Yes,
I
because
heard
the
from a
company's
kid once, he was
losing
talking
money.
about something, and somebody came in and said, hey, man, you can't.
Do you know anything about conferences or spots to advertise programs like interviews? Do they do the same?
Well,
Try
the
for that?
interview is usually tied into the package, I think, right, Eric? Do you remember?
Yeah, that was kind of the deal.
We got, when we did the IMA thing, we got 3 30-second spots
Mhm.
and
And some
and
airtime.
a short interview, yeah, that Eric did. And that cost $300.
You had to pay for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And it's definitely a new policy. That wasn't true 3 years ago.
No.
You know,
yeah.
you had to apply to get an interview, and you had to go through a very narrow
Yeah, it's a
channel
new
to do
policy.
it. There were certainly lots of
Although that even varied, because it used to be like with Elisa Clancy, you could basically, if she knew, you could hit her up
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
exactly.
go
Those
on her
people-
thing. And then, but of course, they also pushed her out, so.
Yeah, well, exactly.
So
And
it's assured you can get the interview if you pay the money.
Right.
Yeah, I think they.
And they're also they also extend their pledge, you know, things during the year, I guess, because they're
right.
trying to get more money.
Right. Well, so we have, you know, there's a lot in common with what we're doing and what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm surely that most of the people who come to our concerts probably listen to KCSM at some point, you know.
Mhm.
And so, we're putting together a letter to talk about it, to talk about, you know, every shoe, you know, all shoe sizes don't fit everybody, and we should have some consideration for the nonprofits like Bird and Beckett and Jazz in the Neighborhood, IMA, Music in Place. You know, the people, we're not talking about SF Jazz, you know, they can pay whatever they have to pay, it's fine with me. But, and the symphony and Yoshi seems to do okay too, they have a budget. So, I mean, at the very least, there should be another rate. That's our
Or
position.
in-kind contribution.
Yeah, and then when it comes time, we can turn around and say to our supporters, hey, KCSM has a fund drive. You know, send them some money. You know, I mean, we could reciprocate. We could do that. So it's something that we're hoping.
Yeah,
We'll
and
see.
I think it's important to support them, send them what you can, because
Yeah.
they're the last of a dying breed.
Yeah,
so.
we definitely want, and I do, and everybody does. But they've got to give back to the community.
Right,
I mean, we are part of their community, and I think so we'll keep you posted on that as it goes out. But
Well, why don't I interrupt with a couple things. One, I've been hoping to get Kenya to do a series of like 3 workshops for musicians and venues on how to get bodies in the seats for our gigs, right? Everybody needs to work on that. So, you know, anybody who could help figure out, you know, how to schedule those and what maybe, you know, work with Kenya to get something together. And, you know, I'll fund it if I have to fund it. Maybe IMA can fund it, but get her, you know, like a musician's rate for coming to do an hour talk
Yeah.
about PR. And then in the other thing, she's working really actively with Casey on that advocacy committee, so they're putting pressure on the city. They're talking about lobbying Noise Pop. I can't seem to get to my comments again right now, so I don't remember. I'm just going off the top of my head, but they're really focused on the idea that Noise Pop's a for-profit organization, not a nonprofit. The business about the unions, you know, Local 6 saying, and IMA saying, well, you know, if you're giving money to various union participants in this, why are you letting this be strictly non-union for the musicians? So there's that. And also Casey is doing 3 dates. I think they're second Saturday in September, maybe it's third Saturday in August, third Saturday in September.
yeah, I think it's
Are they third Saturdays?
second
And
or third.
second or third Saturdays, we
Yeah.
can give you that information. I apologize, Casey, because I can't see the comments. If anybody's looking at
I'm
our
trying
stream.
to see the comments.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the stream, but.
Yeah,
I can't
anyway,
see.
Do you-
I think it's the second Saturday of each of those months.
Do you know what unions Noise Pop is giving is?
No, I don't. We're just saying to investigate that. If there's union
Yeah,
activity,
yeah,
why
yeah.
aren't they involving the performers in that?
Yeah, that'd be a great
Sure, yeah.
thing.
Because after
Yeah,
all,
'cause that's
who's the
something
most active in that thing but the
And
performers
that's
on the
something
street?
that I would bring up at the Labor Council.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we
John's
can-
already on.
Casey
I've been on it
and
for a
Casey
long
and
time.
Kenya will be investigating that, so you can talk to them
Yeah.
about
Oh,
it.
okay.
So then the Grace Notes Festival, yeah, I'm sure it's the second Saturday in August, the second Saturday in September, the second Saturday in October, and they're at the corner of Leavenworth and Hyde, which is the site of the old Black Hawk.
Those don't cross.
I'm sorry,
Turk and Hyde?
Turk and Hyde, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, okay, Turk and Hyde. Wherever the old Black Hawk was, that was a parking lot. Now it's a little blacktop kind of a park. And she did it last year, and looking for IMA members to bring combos into that. We're trying to figure out how to get them paid because she's really working pretty much without a budget. But anyway, sort of clue into that, talk to Casey about what she's doing and see. Are you off?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Sandy.
Thanks, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take pizza with you if you want.
Oh, I'm gonna have dinner
All right.
plans later, thanks.
All right, you should get that out. So yeah, it's basically she's got the street closure. She's got what's the service workers union called?
Right.
SEIU.
SEIU. Yeah.
And one other union involved. Couple acts, advocacy people there. We'll have an IMA table there. We'll have she'd like to have a Jazz in the Neighborhood tent and table, right?
I think the Jazz Neighborhood tent will be up if we get some volunteers
Right.
to do that. And we will be probably supplementing whatever money she can come up with to get to 150 per musician for whatever.
Right, so she wants to have 2 bands at least
Yeah,
per
right.
event,
Yeah.
and the more it could be IMA people, then that's great. She's really interested in the IMA sort of being a sponsor to whatever extent we can, and involvement. So,
Yeah.
and that's a huge undertaking. Last year, I think Omar's Jazzmobile was a lot of the back line and the infrastructure for it.
Right.
So this year she has to get all that from other sources.
And we have access to that.
Is Omar not doing it this year?
Omar has, I think he has sold the Jazzmobile now.
Oh, really?
He's working for a living because being a musician doesn't pay enough to put your kid through college.
Yeah.
Right.
So he is now a postman in Daly City. He's
Oh, wow.
working 50 hours a week and he's gigging at night. And
Wow.
that's part of what IMA is trying to combat, is
Right.
people
Yeah.
needing to give up
Yeah.
full-time
No, I get why he
devotion
did
to
it.
the music
It's-
because they're
Wow.
not supported in terms of meeting their basic overhead on what gigs pay.
But I must say that, you know, Omar and I, and we've talked, and we are kind of taking over what he's been doing. He did so much great work getting like the series at Salesforce and, you know, and a couple other parks and some of those things are still coming to fruition. So he'll be involved in helping to book them. We'll be involved in helping to support him. He's probably gonna, we're working out the equipment that he had with the Jazzmobile. We're gonna kind of, I don't think we're gonna build our own Jazzmobile, but we're gonna kind of the spirit of it will be kept alive somehow.
Hmm.
And we
What are you
will-
thinking about, a trailer or something?
Well, yeah. First of all, I think we'll probably end up, I got to talk to Simon about it, but I think we'll end up going back in the catacombs at Keys and storing most of the stuff there. And then, you know, somehow having contract somebody that's available to, you know, if you know somebody that's got a van or a truck or a trailer, and that we can, you know, get that stuff around. And it might be worth
The
putting
old
the word out.
flatbed truck might be nice, you know.
Well, that was the New York version
Right.
of the Jazzmobile, was a
Yeah.
flatbed.
Yeah, and
And,
then also if you've got a stake bed, you can post a tent over the top and you got a canopy.
Yeah, no, it's you know, funding, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe, that's a good project for the union.
It's
You
a,
know,
it's a nice
Yeah,
fantasy.
yeah.
you know, I mean, that's the kind of thing where you reach out to people like that can help us.
I
looking
got,
to have more
I
than one.
gotta make that decision, but it was frustrating the
Yeah,
time that I was.
I know, I can imagine, But,
Would you be looking to have more than one spot or just a mobile unit?
this, for the Jazzmobile, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, for him, it was always one spot, but sometimes he'd go to two places in one day.
Yeah.
And certainly on the weekend, he'd be in two different places too. But what he was doing was just kind of freelancing, you know, I mean, he'd get somewhat a permission, he did get clearance, but he wasn't getting any money for it the first time around. That's when we jumped in and started helping him pay for money. So it certainly, it's an opportunity, but it could be done, and it could be done with tents and stuff too. I mean, we have have our own tent now, so we can, that helps. And that's available, by the way, if you do get an outside gig where you don't have things and you need a tent, you should talk to us about it, because we do have a really good one with weights and stuff that hold down the corners.
Good to know.
High-end 10 by 10, yeah. So that'd be cool to get more of that happening. Amelie, you're supposed to talk about, I just got a text, your
I think I
experience with the Musicians Assistance Fund was good.
Oh, yeah, great.
Okay.
Fantastic. I keep telling people to sign up. I think we talked about that at the very
Oh,
beginning,
okay, maybe I
very
missed
briefly.
that.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that it's back up and running, and I can only recommend it. And I don't know, I'm happy to create like a step-by-step PDF walkthrough, because for some people it's intimidating to have to fill out paperwork. I understand this is my second language. I'm not from here, so for me, I went to the DMV today, RIP me.
Oh, man.
And so I
must
feel
have
like
been
I
fun.
deserve a green card already. Anyway, but yeah, I'm happy to help people with that, and I feel like, yeah, I feel like there shouldn't be a barrier to that, because it's so easy, and if that is the barrier, that shouldn't be, and I'm
Right.
happy to help people.
Well, maybe send that along to Gabe, and because he's always interested in any clearer other
Yeah.
way to get
It's
the-
already so simple and so
Yeah.
great, so really
Yeah.
kudos to Gabe for
Yeah.
creating what
yeah.
what was created, but I feel like even with the faculty that I'm working with, some of the people really like to be walked through it, yeah, and so
I'm in that crowd.
no, you're so great, but I'm happy to do that, and it's been such a joy to receive that financial support.
Well, a lot of people are still leaving money on the table. You know, I worked with some guys the other night, and you know, there I was, and I had to tell a kid, "Hey, man, you could get cartage for this. You know, just put it in."
Yeah.
Or ran something, an amplifier down or something. So, and again, that's in talking about like recruiting for more people. It's not about, you know, tempting you with trinkets and money and little things. It's
about the
it's an
community.
awareness of
I'll
that.
do it.
This
I'll just
is
set it down there.
this is what we deserve. It's not, you know, it's not like we're lucky to get this. No, this is what we deserve. And so, we hope that by putting it out there and having it available, that you get used to it. And it's like, we can only do it once a week. But if you've got a four night a week gig, and they're not, you know, covering your parking, then you deserve that. And you know, it's not just like you get it once a week. You should get it all the time. You know, and it's all over. I was recently in the Northwest. I was in Seattle. Went to a jazz club up there. First time I walk in the door, and there's a guy, and he's great. He's like, oh well, and I forget what they call it up there, but there's a little society. It's kind of like jazz in the neighborhood. But you know, and he's like, anything you could donate here. You know, the musicians aren't getting paid. And I said, you're preaching the choir, man. I got it. You know, and you know.
Do
So,
they still put those stickers?
for
in
Seattle, with
where
the
they put the
parking thing?
stickers on the
didn't see any
the
around.
venues saying this venue is a 3-star venue and this is a 4-star that they pay depending on what
I
they
didn't see
pay.
it, but they could still be doing it. But I know that they had a load-in zone.
Yeah, they have the yeah.
Yeah.
We went to San Francisco years ago. We with the former president of the union. We went to the City Hall, and the head of the entertainment commission there said, "Oh, you know, musicians. We've talked to them, and
They don't care.
They don't care about a loading zone."
You're right.
And we're going like, really?
Must have
You ever
been the
try
same.
to
Which
load
instruments
drums?
did you talk to?
Right, bass or drums downtown in San Francisco? You know, it's like, give me
Yeah,
a
okay.
break.
You unload a vibraphone, you're
And
gonna.
it's like they said, oh no, nobody expressed interest. Well, we're expressing interest, you know, but nothing happened.
We'll take half a minute break and get something to eat. This one is vegan and that one's vegetarian and this one is got meat.
The carnivore.
But there is vegan there.
Okay, thanks.
There is no gluten-free option, I'm afraid. I didn't
I
figure
know
that
you
out.
hate me. It's okay.
Really? Oh man, I was worried
No,
about that.
please, not for me. I'm so glad to be here.
But are you really gluten-free?
I am devoid of all joys regarding food, but I still have music, so hey,
That counts for something. So.
right?
Yeah,
I
but
do have to run though.
oh,
I'm
well,
very
thank you
grateful.
so much for
No, you're
coming.
silly. Thank you for
Moving
putting this
on.
on.
Yeah.
Next time again, Mario. Thanks so much.
Hey,
Please
thanks
enjoy
for
your
coming
pizza.
by.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to you once school
Yeah.
starts because I want you to get our youngsters to sign up.
Yeah, we're gonna do hardcore this time. I saw Carter and Jackson and in Seattle. Carter Jackson and
Spencer?
Spencer. Spencer was there for a bit, Gabe.
Yeah.
And I sat in with Carter.
Of course you did.
I snuck
Sounded like
in.
an extra room.
Ken and I was there. He got the
Yeah,
swings.
it's
Got away with
the,
it.
the highest highs and the lowest lows, that's what it's like
It's
these
so
days.
nice to meet you in person. I've heard you play a lot.
What's that? Music
Got the-
always
got the-
finds new ways to keep me humble.
Yeah,
Oh, very
yeah,
good.
there's that too.
Oh my God, I'm telling you.
I would love to be.
Well, a lot of times you're good about
Yeah,
that
making
voting
vote.
thing, you know.
Yeah,
A lot of times I think
Let's get this thing.
yeah, that's
the
a
venue owner
I
says,
knocked
do
my
you
coffee
need a
cup out
voting
there.
zone? You know, I
What do
can't.
do loot
In other words, the musicians might just say, okay, well, it's
Yeah.
okay, you know, they would just be kind of deferred to it rather than.
Yeah, but they got, up in Seattle, they got City Hall
Yeah.
to
Email
just,
is good.
you know, mark that off, for-
G-A-E-A.
which is great.
G-A, sorry. E-A?
Correct.
But I thought about you when those cups, and I said, well,
Thank you,
SC.
I said, well, I said, how much
Yeah,
are these
some-
cups? She says, oh
just
no,
asking
take
if
as
I
many
play
as
with
you
enough.
want, and they're really
Yeah, nice guy.
quality,
Yeah.
cups, I was surprised.
Very nice.
Well, that's what I need. I bought
I'm
like
back on his
5 boxes of mugs for the store, and
Oh,
20% of them were busted by the time they got to me.
oh geez.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, I had,
I'm
back on the
I
on
had
list.
4 of them, and one of them cracked in the luggage, but that was.
Only one piece.
Wow.
Which is the vegan one here?
You know,
The
I saw
vegan
last
is this
night, you know,
That-
Rock and Lloyd Trip.
Looks good.
Yeah, he
except
was
for
in
the
town.
olives. I don't like
Well, you can pick off.
Yes.
It was great. He doesn't play bass anymore, but
Wow.
it doesn't, you know,
This one looks.
he's just like the
That's
most
quite good, but it's
entertaining.
not vegan.
Well, this
Most
piece
entertaining
is so
person in rock
tiny.
and
I
roll
kind of
history.
combine them into
You
one
get away
piece.
with
I
it.
think.
Well, they didn't tell enough jokes. And the song's like maybe we've gone from
Yeah, Kale
75
did
seconds
really
into
well.
the 90
Yeah,
seconds
that's
range,
great.
so maybe getting a
and
little
the board
long-winded.
The executive board, which is the 5 members, not the, it includes the officers, but the 5 members that ran for the executive board, 2 of them were on that,
On the
on that
slate.
slate.
Which ones, do you remember?
Dusty.
Oh, yeah, Dusty, okay. There's some,
I bought the book for you if you wanna.
oh, yeah, that'd be
you know,
great, yeah. I'll read it. Well, that's cool.
It was, it was interesting. The most interesting part was they had the mayor of Las Vegas,
Yeah.
and she's been mayor for 12 years, and her husband was mayor before that.
Oh, Goodman? John Goodman?
Right, and she even said, well, my husband was a mob lawyer. And
Right
he's
out
proud
front.
of it.
Yeah.
She was right out front about
Sure.
it. He goes, oh yeah, he always talks about it, Anyway,
That's great.
that was a funny part.
Okay.
That was.
Well,
If you have nothing else, I appreciate her forthright
I'd
approach.
love to see that one-page
Mhm.
agreement or contract that you have.
Kurt, you're still in the union?
Yeah.
I'll be getting one tomorrow.
And then
Or
hit
join
Sunday.
There's about 15 or 20 people out of the 100.
But you get a pension, right?
I'm not gonna be investing. I won't be able to invest. Button up in it. It's been just sort of a thing I've done
I
because I
got one in the corner.
think it's important to have one.
Yeah.
Hey, Kurt, does people in Plaza still pay extra for union people?
They hadn't in a long time.
Where was that?
Experience. People in plazas, at one point they paying extra for union people, and I think they stopped a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a long time
This
ago.
year I haven't even talked. I've had, Patrick sent me a really cryptic text about some dates, and I've talked to other people about it, people in plazas. I don't know what's really happening this year. I was saying earlier that a friend of mine said there's a lot of funding that they got a lot of funding this year, and I was surprised because I just assumed that they would gotten hosed because, previously they were basically funded by the property developers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you heard anything about that, John? Because that's a union gig, right?
Oh yeah,
It was a union
it
gig.
was.
Yeah.
Well, originally, yeah, it was like NPTF stuff, and I did some through
Right.
that a million years ago. And that used to be sort of like, my remaining union gig, and
There are a lot of MPTF funds available
Mhm.
this year,
Yeah. Yeah.
and even the amount that was allotted, they can go over it supposedly.
Yep.
Well, we should definitely tap into that, and I always felt like they should make it something like
Really good.
for the majority of the members have to be union, but not everybody. In other words, make it a recruiting thing.
Yeah, not everybody has to be in the union to.
Right.
But if you're if you're in the
Maybe the
union,
leader.
you're the leader, and then supposedly they'll work with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I talked to some people that were joining the union around some of those kids. And then they just dropped out after, and that was what happened. But I think this idea of a conference inside of the union, where you really feel like you're getting some attention and getting some
Now
benefits.
they tried, but it didn't fly. It didn't get any traction.
Does it have to come through but it doesn't have to come through the national, according to Hannah, we could start it locally.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. You know,
Yeah.
You get it started
Locally.
somewhere, and if it's
Yeah.
a success.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go, is to just, if enough of us wanna make that happen, we have enough members to say, okay, we'll start that and see what the union.
What were you gonna call that conference? You had a name for
They
it.
call it the freelance musicians.
Probably, I think it's, I don't know, what were they calling it? Did they have
Freelance
musicians conference? Yeah.
There is a freelance musician division which was founded, I think, in 2004, but it doesn't really do very much.
Mm-hmm. Well, think
What-
about it, the bigger,
Yeah.
the better,
This is
you
the
know,
best pizza
Mhm.
ever.
because
Would that entail paying union dues?
I'm sure there would be some union dues involved, yeah. And probably work dues too.
When I joined the union in 1971, I'm dating myself, there were 380,000 union musicians across the country. And this last convention, I think they had bumped up from 58,000 to 60,000.
Wow.
Because they started to, get more members again, but
Yeah.
still from 380,000 to 60
A friend of mine who,
over the years.
Yeah.
yeah, a friend of mine told me last night, I was with him talking about this, and he said, musicians union used to be one of the bigger unions in the country.
Right.
Really?
More, yeah,
Wow.
because, there was music everywhere and people were in the union.
And you
There was
didn't,
old days.
and you didn't work, every place had union musicians, period.
Yeah,
And then they had this weird thing that they did where they would categorize the amount of musicians per square footage
classifications.
classification, which, is
the
like,
size
oh,
of
you
the
got, it's kind of
So
very
Beck would have a
strange.
classification of how many musicians. there
Right,
were.
right. A 2,000 square foot building
Mhm.
or whatever has 5 and.
Okay, my best story about that is, so, just to make you feel better, I joined the union in, I was 13, so it's like 1955.
Oh, jeez.
Okay.
Wow.
I was
Wow.
13. So,
Wow.
but I came back from school and I got a call to play Candlestick Park. Did I tell you the story already? Okay,
Yep.
it's worth a couple of minutes. So, the classification for Candlestick Park was a 50-piece orchestra.
Uh-huh.
And there was a
Wow.
concert going on there, a rock and roll concert, they said, and they needed to have an orchestra come out and start the concert, because it was required by the union. So they were hiring 50 people to come out and play the Star Spangled Banner. I said, I'll do that, put a suit on and go out there. So I did, went out and played, and got off the stage and packed up and went home. It was the last Beatles concert, 1960.
Oh,
Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah. It was, later I became a Beatles fan, but it was too late. But anyhow, that was a great story about classifications.
Yeah, yeah.
But I was playing, Fairmont, Venetian room had a classification, Tonga room had a classification, any place that it was working.
Yeah.
And the other thing was that all the checks went through the union, right? In the
Well,
old days.
yeah. I was up at the Sir Francis Drake when they came down with that that edict in, what was it, 1978, which said the venue no longer is your employer, the
Right.
leader of the band is your employer, which just broke everything. Just
Yeah.
Was that
after
78?
that, it was like a slide downhill.
Yeah. And was it because the leaders became competitive with each other and they just undercut each other, or how did that happen?
The leaders and the and the booking agents got traction.
So they would
Because the union, if you, in order to play downtown in a hotel or any of those places, you had to be in the union within 30 days. So the booking agent comes along and says, I'll book bands in here every 28 days. And they don't have to be in the union.
wow.
So because it was 28 days
Yeah.
was the cutoff,
Yeah.
2 more days and you had
Yeah.
to join the union to stay there.
Well,
And the agents just took over and just shuffled bands in.
Yeah.
And
So you mean like, are the contractors, is that the same, the agents?
booking agents, well, they would go. They could be. Some of the booking agents that were really sleazy would also categorize themselves as managers, because a manager can get more than 15%. A booking agent could only get so much, right? But a manager, he could get whatever,
write their own deal.
maybe 60% or something.
Well, that was
or
one of the
whatever.
questions I wanted to ask the guy, what you call it, Dick
Dick
Bright.
Bright.
Yeah. What was he doing during that time? I didn't want to put him on the spot, but I wonder what his
He was-
recollection would be about
He
that.
was doing really well.
Yeah,
he
he
did
was
really
booking,
well.
was he paying people well? I mean, they had the discretion to pay whatever they could too, right?
Yeah, but he was doing well, and he had all the
You know, he had plenty of accounts.
country clubs
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all those places
Mhm.
sewed up, you
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah. Well, the idea of having your checks come from an employer puts you in a different category of worker, and so then
right.
you'd be entitled to Social Security and protection under.
Oh yeah, we had pension. We even had half of a medical.
Oh, that was just that.
Right.
We had half medical.
I live for
Remember that?
Oh,
No, you're not that old, but
Right.
I
If you're
really
here,
just
right.
say it. I don't know why I'm looking at you.
Well, maybe.
Because I look that old.
Yeah, sure, I can hear lift.
Well,
Crazy.
I don't have any deadlines.
Well,
So Dwayne, did you
Hit
get
it.
your
thanks y'all.
proposal all in?
Hey, good to see you, man.
Yeah,
Take
you
care.
too, Trout.
How long do you have to wait for a vote?
Until
What's your name
September.
again?
Jimbo.
Jimbo and Mario.
Okay. I'd love
Yeah,
to
thanks for
see it.
everything. Thanks for
I'll see
everything you're
the-
doing.
Some of the narrative.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
I'd love to see
Thanks,
some
Eric.
of the narrative parts that
See
you
you later,
did. you
Jimbo.
know.
Yeah.
See y'all.
Okay, Jimbo. Bye bye.
Yeah.
Take care. You can just leave that anywhere. I'm gonna go around with a broom and a can and sweep up. Leave it on the seat of that chair right there.
Sweet.
I'll
Thanks.
sit on it, and then I'll know where it is.
Yeah.
Take care, man.
Take care.
Yeah. How many, like, did you specify how many instructors you try to get going and how many kids you try to serve and that kind of thing?
Well, right now I'm trying to figure out how to get the word out, period, so I can determine how many students I can get.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to go to the city, to the school district and contact some of the teachers that teach music and talk to them about who they think might be able to, might be eligible for the program.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really looking at it being an apprenticeship program where I can get get things started to where the musicians in the town can actually hire some of these kids to play, not thinking of how well they have to play, just to get them into doing the work,
Yeah.
playing background until they can learn how to solo and other, you know.
Are you
just
hip
getting-
to this place in the Bayview called Old School Cafe?
No.
Okay. So what they're doing over there is they got some city funding to open up this really old bar and restaurant, and it looks like
Wait a minute.
1890s New Orleans
Wait a
inside of
minute.
there.
Yeah, I
And you
think I
have
know
to
what
be
you're talking
less
about.
than 21 years old, and they have a thing,
Yeah.
and they have jazz kids up on the balcony, and you have to be. By the way, it's a program to, for
Right. it's a
underprivileged
rehabilitation
kids
program.
from the neighborhood, and so you've got these like young, like underage teenagers waiting on you, and they're all dressed up with bowler
Yeah, I
hats
know
and
what you're
red.
talking about.
They're like that, and
I know what you're
and
talking
there's,
about.
the musicians up there are all got to be under 21 years old.
Session.
Yeah, we did a.
Doesn't seem like should we pack up that
program
So,
there.
yeah, 'cause I don't wanna-
Yeah.
I don't know if it was
Well, I can help you.
No, that's all right.
Plaza.
Oh, right outside, yeah.
Yeah, it was
There's a
outside.
plaza
Gaea
there. I
brought it
forget what
to
the name of it
Yeah,
is.
She wants to
we
play
played
by
out
herself.
there.
Do you wanna do a,
But
quick
inside,
drum-
they still,
drum
I
and
think they
flute,
still have jazz there.
do a-
If you're just
Yeah,
or
you
you
can't
play
see
by
it.
yourself.
Come and flip.
Yeah, I was surprised to know I was too old to play.
Oh, there's a drum and fife corps tradition. I mean, come on.
But it was a nice looking joint. It's a nice looking joint.
Yeah.
So you've seen the place?
Yeah, I've seen it.
It's on 3rd Street, or where is it?
Like 3rd and Lane or 3rd and.
Towards the hill.
No, it's
No,
right,
no.
right there, right there, right there,
past the
3rd.
canal, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean the hill at the south end of 3rd Street.
Yeah,
It's
so
pretty far down.
No,
Lane.
it's not that far down.
No.
You know how the streets go off
I
on
don't
an
know.
angle,
Oh, okay.
and then there's a plaza there. I think it's
Oh, okay. So the Opera House
would
is
it be?
up and down.
No, it's south of the Opera House. But old school cafe, and spell that SKOOL.
As it should be.
Really exotic joint.
Yeah,
And they have a full bar,
yeah.
but of course the kids can't serve the drinks.
See,
So,
No.
that'd be a challenge right there.
well, yeah,
So
no,
the
the
21
bartender has to be of age, and that's.
And you can be over 21 in a tent. But to play or work in it, you gotta be 20. Under 20.
Well, if you're a musician there, you have to be under 21, and they want to give the opportunities to the kids to play.
Yeah.
And if you're a server and stuff, you have to be a kid. And but the bartender by law has to be
Yeah.
over 21,
Right.
and they have to bring the drink out to you.
Yeah.
So I'll order my glass of wine from a 16-year-old kid, but the bartender has to
order, yeah.
serve it to me.
Fair enough.
Right.
Okay, well, I guess we'll get rolling. Thanks for the
Yay,
pizza.
big fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that's yours. I was wondering who's. that
Yeah, I
was.
moved his coat on.
Yeah. Well, Eric, you got food for like 3 nights.
Yeah, feel free to. I was gonna bring up some foil if you wanna take pieces home, anybody. Let me grab some.
Couple of them, how cold is it out there? You get cold?
Snap, crackle, pop. Up to my knees.
Snap, crackle, and pop.
Used to be my breakfast cereal. Now it's my knees.
Where did you ever play this game? Looking good.
There's more than this. The pepperoni one over there too.
Why is this doing this?
Mario,
Yes, sir.
I have a proposition.
Yeah.
I got a contract with the Chinatown CDC.
Oh, okay.
They're giving.
Those people that
Yeah, they finally came through.
Okay.
Some work.
Good.
And they guaranteed 600, and I wanted to get matched. So we got 2 weeks coming through. To do the gig.
Okay, so 2 groups, how many people?
Mike Jones trio and my trio.
Okay, so two, so like six musicians.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so they got 600.
Mhm.
So we could get it up to 750, I think. In other words, we could get 150 for each musician. Oh, so that'd be more than that, it'd be up to like, is it just one performance, one?
You ready to boogie?
Yeah.
One for Mike Jones.
Okay, two performances with 6 musicians
Yeah.
performing. Oh, the same night?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, so, we should be able to supplement
Some of
If
that.
you don't
Pizza,
want it,
I'll
but I
make it
highly
up
suggest you keep it 'cause it's so good.
So you get
Yeah.
150 for each
Take
musician.
some pieces of it,
Yeah.
one you particularly like.
900. So we could-
Okay.
So we could add 300 to it.
Okay.
Does that sound? That's
That's
what
what I was hoping
to double it.
double it.
Yeah, we can't double it, but what you could do, each leader in the group could apply through IMA for that 10% leaders fee.
Okay.
So that's some money on the table you could pick up.
Ooh, we'll do that then.
So that would be like another $45 for each leader.
Okay.
Yeah. But just, if you go to that, go to that guaranteed for
Eric.
fund
Yeah.
form.
What kind of,
That's online?
Yeah.
Okay. That's good enough.
If you have any trouble with
And I'll send you that agreement.
it. Yeah, yeah. That's good that you got it. When's it happening?
I have a couple,
August the 5th.
Okay, yeah, so it's coming up pretty quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so try to
AKGs
get
are
that in
supposed to
tonight.
And that's the agreement that I have.
Yeah, no, that's great.
but I don't know.
Yeah,
Kind
very
of bought
good.
enough
And
mics
that's-
for the time being.
Yeah, well,
That's a nice,
this one group that I'm playing with, the
Life is short.
kind of
Yeah,
Latin rock
and that's a,
group,
that's a
I
nice,
need
that's a
to
nice
get some
form.
mics for the, I need to
Get
put
a-
mic up the
Give
bass.
me a copy of that.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're talking about playback, everybody getting the same kind of form, something like that. would be
So listen to
fantastic.
that.
Yeah, so put that in right away.
It has a little more
Excellent.
flavor to it, that thing.
Good.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you very
yeah,
much.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah, the bass group, I love this bass drum.
Yeah.
But
Go for it.
it's great for jazz, but not
yeah.
so much for rock. I got another
Very nice.
bass drum
Here, I
for
think
the rock stuff.
yeah.
We'll have to take a whole different approach if we want to
It's,
get an IMA jam session happening.
That's the vegetarian
Well,
one, I think.
no, yeah,
It's good, I.
yeah,
And this is vegan.
No meetings, that's the
yeah, yeah.
Are you gonna take some of
And
this?
it all depends sometimes.
I'm not, you go
Sometimes
ahead.
filters
I'm
out.
gonna
Sometimes,
put this box.
sometimes he
There you go.
comes
Want
in
a
with
napkin
his
here?
bass, and when he comes in with the bass, you
No,
know
I'm
there's
gonna-
gonna be
well,
a
I'm just
trying to
session,
figure out
you gotta, you know, there's gonna be something going on, but,
Tricky.
you know, it all depends, right?
You're doing good on that, folding.
Really?
Yeah, you're looking
I'll
real
bring
good.
it.
So I
Hacking
guess we're
anything
gonna
is
try
not-
to do a meeting like this kind of monthly. Mario,
What's that?
we're gonna do a meeting like this kind of
Oh,
monthly.
yeah, at least, I think.
Ugh.
Oh, this was the convention.
Every 2
Well-
weeks, it's bad.
Now,
That's convenient for me, but yeah,
Almost worked, but I didn't quite cover
yeah,
it.
but I wouldn't do 2 a month, you know.
I'll stick it
It's
down.
hard put to, keep up. But I don't know if we have to do it.
Mario, how, what'd you think of Donna?
I've seen you before. Oh, I think
Bye,
it's great.
everyone.
Yeah, she's got a lot of enthusiasm, she's under 30,
I wanted to bring.
she's, but she's, you know, just trying to,
Excellent.
Do you need another one?
Which one's that?
Face on it, I forget that what people.
Yeah.
Get it out of my car, I'll bring
You
it.
already read it?
yeah,
She gave you copies.
She gave me some.
That's right.
Okay,
All
yeah,
right.
she's trying
Yeah,
to do
mostly
the right
for all
thing,
of us,
you know,
but
she's,
also
Good.
for-
and at least they got somebody.
She's
that-
on
I'm a
the
bass player. I play bass.
Yeah, I got her
I've seen
on
you
the,
play. That's cool.
you know, somebody's gonna, I've been on that thing since 2007,
Yeah.
so somebody's gonna have
Fresh
to
blood.
step up
There you go.
and get some fresh blood in
Well,
it,
she's,
you know? Thanks a lot for saying
Thank you
fresh.
so much. Huh? Yeah. Keep on. So yeah, that's this week.
I'm gonna go get this
week
book
coming up.
for,
Excellent, excellent.
I feel a little stronger too than last time.
Oh, good.
Last time
Okay.
was scary, man. It was.
Oh yeah, well, it's always charming anyway. You manage. Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Oh, that's,
Yeah. And so Ralph's on it.
yeah.
Great. That's great.
And Anthony Pegram, he's a union.
I'll be right back,
I
Eric.
don't know if he's in the clients.
Yeah.
Oh, Anthony's a good guy.
Yeah, you know.
I knew him a long time ago. I haven't seen him recently, but
Yeah, he knows
Good
all
guy.
that old stuff.
Yeah. Good. Okay, we'll
All
have some
right.
fun.
And thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
That's,
Go eat some dinner.
oh yeah.
Ah. Keep on keeping on.
Yeah,
All right. All right, good. Take care. Bye-bye.
John, you want a hand taking your gear out to the car?
Oh, no, I just got two trips, I think. I'll do it. Be good.